Tony Bourached, welcome to the Future of E-commerce catch-up. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm grateful for you taking the time for us to give us your unique perspectives as on advertising and e-commerce in the region as a digital-first expert in the field. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm really glad to be here.
Now, for those of our audience that don't know you, I'll give a few little introduction notes. You are CEO of Ritelo, the retail media platform of ArabyAds. And going back to the start, before all of that, you, following an education background in architecture and design, you moved into marketing and communications, where you thrived with successful stints in the UK, a happy period in Saudi Arabia, and ultimately Dubai. So after making your mark with Mindshare, you became the CEO of Ritelo in 2022, which, as I mentioned, has become a major player in the retail media space in the Middle East. So what I am told is whatever you don't know about retail media is not worth knowing. And it's there, if I may, that I'd like to start on retail media. Sure. We recently did a catch-up on the topic. And amongst the research that we did, it seemed to be a very exciting time for brands, retailers to be involved in that. One of the statistics which I introduced in my opening there was a Statista report which recently recorded in 2022, the digital retail media advertising spend worldwide was estimated at $114.4 billion US dollars. And that's gone up to 136 billion this year and forecast to reach more than $175 billion in 2028. So I wanted to see from your side of things, looking at the trajectory, how excited should advertisers, retailers and brands be about the prospects and potential of retail media?
Well, with you mentioning those numbers and saying that double-digit growth, I think everyone should be excited about the opportunities that retail media is offering. Obviously, it's become a big buzzword, and we have few of those that appear every couple of years within the whole media industry. And now it's something that essentially is gaining track. Everyone's looking at it because for me as a marketer, and just mentioning all those years I've been in marketing, the one thing that we always looked at and we always strive to achieve or deliver is able to attribute any media spend to an effective sale or return on what we call ad spend. And this is the part for me that retail media offer that's exciting and everyone should be excited about. Is it's one of those rare platforms where you're able to go and measure your spend, your strategies, and see the impact and see effectively how that is translating into an actual sale. And yeah, whoever is not, I really recommend that you start looking into it because it's quickly catching on. It's taking a lot of advertising dollars, and it's not just global. We've seen that double-digit growth as well in the market. I mean, by my estimate, and if I look at the pool of clients that we work with over the since 2022 to 2023, we've seen an increase in budget by about 18 to 20%. But really it's between 23 and this year, 2024, that's for now, I believe there've been about 30% increase in advertising budget that is allocated to what we call pure retail media.
Okay, great. And in an interview that you gave in 2022, if I could get the words out, you spoke of a disparity between the adoption of retail media globally versus regionally in the Middle East. In those couple of years since, where we have seen that double-digit growth across both markets, have you seen that gap shorten in terms of the sophistication and the adoption of retail media over here?
It has. I mean, the gap has shortened, but I still stand by what I've said 2 years ago. The retail media concept is not something new that we see across retailers. It's a different definition that we're now utilizing in the world of media. So retail media essentially has been there since the beginning of supermarkets and the big retail spaces. It was in a different shape or form, or presented in different. It was more on the ground. So currently, and the disparity that I still see between our definition of retail media in the MENA region versus globally, that a lot of the retail media budget are still allocated on a trade or agreement stage between retailers and the brands. And it's not, if you want, taking a full media or monetization approach to it. To explain, if a certain brand has a certain budget that they agree with the retailer to allocate on an advertising campaign throughout the year, that forms part of their setup with the retailer. These agreements are still done between trade and salespeople, the people that essentially have knowledge of advertising, but they're not the experts. So that disparity between here and the global market, we're still seeing a bit of that. I know a lot of the multinationals, a lot of the big brands have made a massive change, even over the last year again, by moving those budgets and giving them to either the media or marketing teams within a brand setup, and even the retailers investing in getting monetization or ad teams in place to help really properly run and use those budgets. So the gap is narrowing, but we're still a way far from the ideal setup or the global norms of what retail media stands for now in the advanced markets like the US.
And with the state of Dubai at the moment attracting sort of foreign talent and making it a lot easier for people from those markets to sort of come over and set up and bring their skills to the marketplace, is that something in the future that you think would further sort of close that gap?
Of course. I mean, in UAE, we've always been at the forefront of media adoption, of, if you want, taking the global norms and applying them, because essentially we serve the region as a hub. So yeah, a lot of the global talents coming over, a lot of the multinationals are, again, quickly adapting the norms or the way that retail media and essentially media is used globally. So yeah, UAE will always be at the forefront of that, will always be the one that leads the way in the market. But I have to admit as well that in Saudi, we've seen a really big change, even talking with the local retailers. And I talk local, homegrown retailers, quickly understanding the importance of monetization of all retail media and having the tools and the teams in place to adapt that and offer that as a solution to advertisers.
You mentioned Saudi Arabia. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I know you spent a lot of time there earlier in your career, and particularly with the social commerce sort of pickup that they have over there as well. But before that, and looking at the technology and data and artificial intelligence, now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the technology in retail media and what Ritelo do there. As I understand it, the retail media companies, and correct me if I'm wrong, largely source data from the same or similar pools of regional retailers. So how does Ritelo and your technology differentiate from competitors and to stand out in your delivery there?
So as you said, data is data. We all have the same sources. We all have the same data points that is available to us, to advertisers, and to a certain extent, all retailers work on delivering or providing the same data. What we do at Ritelo is we've really developed the technology that would help combine the data. So first of all, the way we gather data, automated, in real time, and presenting it under a single screen at a touch of a button to clients is very important. So there is a lot of data that you can read and see and try and analyze, and accessing it is always been proven challenging. And obviously, as a brand, when you have different retailers and different platforms that you have to log into and go every time and source out the data and try to find it, it becomes frustrating, and that hinders the way of you using the simple data that you have access to. So that's, if you want, the first point of what we do at Ritelo. We simplify the access to that data. We portray it in a different way that clients and retailers alike can use it in understanding how their campaigns are performing and how they can optimize it and how really can they read the data and make something of it, a story, or even use it in the future setup that they have. So that's one of the ways that we offer data access differently. The second part about data is how much data you can combine and analyze to help you understand consumers or market. As an example, we've been working with a client of ours over the last few weeks trying to understand the behavior of a certain e-commerce platform, why the users are interacting with the branding elements versus performance elements, and how the branding elements are actually helping increase sales. While obviously, if someone's working in retail media, the first thing you do is to go and spend your money within a performance approach. So it's really analyzing consumer behaviors, and that changes between platform and the other. It changes between geographies and the others. The people in Kuwait behave online differently from how consumers go shop and use retailers online in UAE. So yes, we all have access to the same data. It's what you do with that data, how you see it, and how it can help you at a basic way or form to interpret it and use it and really take that data and do something about it to enhance your campaigns and even push your strategies and inform you into how and why and what you need to spend on.
How much of a game changer have recent artificial intelligence tools been in terms of the amount of data sources that you do have and being able to harness all of that data? And have you seen in recent years, since it has become sort of the biggest talk of every water cooler, that has scaled in terms of that artificial intelligence tools and how much we're using them?
So again, with AI, it's been the buzzword now for the last few years, and everyone has been waiting the big breakthrough that AI is going to help them in achieving operational excellence. From healthcare to even retailers, we've seen a lot of case studies come through, a lot of talk about how AI is really going to be the next thing that is going to help deliver whatever, sector is looking to achieve, from, operational excellence, as I said, to bettering analytics. But we're yet to see a full application really within the whole media industry. I know that as a media sector, we've been talking a lot of how we can analyze data better. And I'm sure that when it comes to AI and the way that we crunch big data, that is being used and is being, in a way, available to advertisers. But personally, I've not yet seen the full power of AI being implemented the way we can imagine it. I mean, at Ritelo, obviously, for me, in the way I look at it is how can AI, first of all, help crunch the data? Because for me, that's a very important point, that currently we sit on so many touch points, on so much information, and I don't believe we started to grasp the enormity of it, or the way we could summarize it to really use it in a sort of a campaign, simple campaign way. So there's a lot that AI is promising. I still believe that we're not there yet with the full or using the full capabilities of AI. But at Ritelo, we're looking at first trying to see how AI can help us improve our analytical capabilities. And there's another point that I believe AI is kind of ready to deliver on. And this is something as well that I'm trying to see how we can offer it to our client. It's what we call automation. Currently, we all struggle in terms of offering 24/7 service. Specifically in retail media, this is something that is needed. You need to keep your eye on the ball and the campaign at all times to see when a product is not available anymore and pause your campaign. Simple stuff like this, I believe this is where AI can come in and help us in our everyday setup, analytics, and automation.
Well, that just brings me on to the next question on that expectation of how people do shop these days compared to when I was growing up, and how it's very different, and my parents' generation obviously before that. That expectation that say a Gen Z sort of coming through now, how are they, do you think, are going to experience that as just the norm, that kind of personalization that they are sort of faced with? Whereas I think that we might sort of say how it used to be and how this is, but I think for the next generation coming through, that's what they've been brought up with. So where do you think that could go from there?
I mean, again, AI personalization is the same thing. It's another buzzword that everyone is trying to deliver on. And I really believe in the world of retail media, this is something important and it's something that we need to achieve. However, everyone's interpretation of personalization is different. When you're talking about Gen Z and the way that the expectations are with personalization, there is something called, I need it quickly. That comes before it's knowing what I need. So there is different expectations coming from different consumers. And there was a study that BCG actually published a while back, not long ago, about what personalization is and how can you really try to define it. And they've had a 5-point way of portraying personalization, which is what it means to consumers. For consumer is know me, reach me, show me. That's, what personalization is. But beyond that is how can you empower me and how can you delight me? So yeah, in media, when it comes to personalization, we know consumers. This is something that's being done now for the last 5 years, and we've been doing well, and a bit too well, because people are started to, wonder how much we know about them and how when they're thinking, when they're saying a word, suddenly they see an ad appear. So this is how much we know them. This is how much we're reaching them, and we're showing them kind of the ad that we believe they want to see. However, the true closing the full circle of personalization is all about empowering consumers. And first of all, to get quickly to the product that they're after and allowing them a seamless interaction from the minute they see the ad into the ability of clicking, shopping, and getting that product. And finally, how do we delight them? How do we go beyond the expectations? Because, brands can compete on space, on content, they can compete on products, and even create that want that would let consumers to really click that purchase button. But how can we make sure that they're loyal to brands? Yeah. How can we delight them in going beyond the extra mile of, so they bought my product, what's next? So this is where I believe retailers and even the industry as a whole still have a lot to deliver on. How do we delight them, be it on a purchase cycle, or how do we delight them with content, or even beyond the expectations of just a simple a click of or a purchase sum.
Okay, and you touched a little bit on that with social commerce as well, with the norms of what we grew up with against our children growing up, of what is their experience of popular culture as well as shopping and everything like that. So with the ever increase of social commerce capabilities and the continued rise in social media use, TikTok and Snapchat, particularly in Saudi Arabia, where it is a young population, how far have you seen this come? And do you see social commerce being that or something comparable to retail media in terms of the next big wave to jump on?
I really believe social commerce has got a lot to play in the whole context or setup of retail media. It's an important part of it, and it's been for years fueling, if you want, the whole infrastructure of micro businesses and even small businesses. Mm-hmm. However, the challenge that big brands and even retailers are facing when it comes to social media is I don't want to call it walled gardens, but the fact that social platforms are still guarding their data, they're guarding the consumer behavior and access to the users in a way that it's either you adapt the the full circle setup of a social platform, or else you're kind of out. So unless the social platforms open up and truly open up and offer integration for retailers and offer that seamless journey from the minute you're exposed to an ad and to complete that purchase cycle, I believe social media will not gain the traction that we're expecting or the way that retail media is at the moment. So there is still a lot to be done from the social platforms to offer, if you want, that partnership to brands and to retailers and open up their platforms to truly become part of the whole social media fabric.
Well, that was, interestingly, one of the main messages at the last event that we did on retail media was the collaboration and the importance of that as a requirement for retail media to thrive. So from your perspective, how does collaboration with brands and retailers evolve going forward, and what opportunities are there for deeper partnerships there?
So, what we've been talking about a lot is the availability of data. And retailers sit on a vast amount of data that they're currently analyzing or have access to, and some of them don't even or haven't even started, just gathering the power of the data they sell. So there are partnerships that need to start at a retailer side, first of all, in investing in basic tools, in basic setup that would allow that data to be read, to be accessed by advertisers, or even brands that are looking to understand the behavior of consumers when it comes to a purchase cycle. So there are a lot of basic data points that we still don't have access to. So a collaboration needs to start, first of all, by understanding what brands are after in terms of understanding consumer behaviors, not on a market level, not on a brand level, but at a granular retailer level. And until retailers have got the tools and capabilities to analyze that data and offer it to all, we're still away from talking about true partnerships. And second, there is the transparency element of it. I know that there are data points that you can share, and there are data points that some brands don't want their competitors to access, but there are ways to present data that can be anonymized. However, have it accessible, and I'm yet to still see that at a retailer level. We talk a lot about industries, categories, but it's still vague. So there need to be a little bit more of a transparency. There need to be a little bit more of getting together and agreeing, you know what, I don't mind my competitor understanding how my consumer in general behave. Yes, they're not going to see my sales data. They're not going to see how many products I shift today. But it's interesting to have a little bit more of transparency or data allowed to be shared around. And finally, it's a real-time access to data, because currently, even though retailers have got access to sales data, let's say in real time, very few of them allow you to understand what's happening in real time. So whatever data we're getting, it's what we call slow data or old data. By the time the campaign ends, and let's say get a report on how our campaign has behaved, we'd be miles away from where we needed to be to actually make it perform better. Because when you look at that performance and the optimization that is needed to get more budgets onto the platform, it's something that retailers still need to understand. So retailers, in a way, they need to start wearing a media house hat on and really behaving like one. And until that happens, the collaboration and the transparency within the whole advertising context is still way off.
I think the last sort of specific sort of area within e-commerce, which I wanted to get your take on before we sort of look a bit more broadly into the future of e-commerce, was quick commerce. Ahead of the next live catch up that we've got in February, we were just looking at the significance of quick commerce with Ramadan, the holy month, and the consumer shopping needs that period brings. I wanted to get your opinion on how you see quick commerce evolving in the region, and with homegrown champions and multinationals alike, sort of competing to enhance the customer experience?
It's funny, quick commerce was one of those things that was quickly adopted in the market. It's one of those channels. For some reason, I believe across the region, we've been champions of that, and we've become dependent on quick commerce up to a point where the market now is so fragmented and you've got new platforms popping up every day. So I still believe the market is yet to stabilize. We're seeing a lot of homegrown brands, even global brands, looking at expanding in across the MENA region, coming through with a big investment money, throwing it in the market, surviving a few months, and then, losing that position or that market standing or market share that we're after. So I still believe the quick market comments need to stabilize. We have a lot of players. A lot of them are offering exciting setups. A lot of the global players are coming to the market with their know-how, with their tools. So they're making a difference. And in the world of retail media, they're offering a monetization aspect that really appeals to brands. However, the local brands have got the market know-how, they've got the agility, and they're quickly gaining rounds. And in some markets, we've seen them push the global brands out. And yet, for these local players, when it comes to retail media, a lot of them are understanding the importance of monetizations, the importance of the advertising money coming through. However, their expectations when it comes to budgets coming in, it is not aligned with what they're able to offer the big brands that look at multinational quick commerce platforms with their tools and their capabilities. So, yes, local homegrown brands need to invest a lot in tools and offer a proper retail media solution structure to get that money coming in and gain the advantage over the global brands that already come in with their tools and the know-how ready. But however it is, quick commerce is something that is here to stay. And my advice to every brand and every advertiser is to really have a strategy within your whole retail media setup, specifically to quick commerce, because the way consumers and the platforms behave is not the same as your traditional e-commerce or e-retailer, and what you can do in terms of planning and running a campaign there. So again, we spoke about social commerce and quick commerce. Even though these channels form part of a whole retail media ecosystem, I still believe that a strategy needs to be developed by the advertisers and the brands that, address social commerce and address quick commerce that is different from the whole retail media setup that we currently have.
Now, as a brand umbrella, the future of e-commerce suggests we'll look a little bit further ahead. And as a self-described digital-first man, and having seen sort of so many advancements in digital advertising in your career, in a relatively short time, of course, where do you see? Are there any other big waves for marketers to get on that we've maybe not touched on that you think 2025 might be the year for?
I'm a big believer in digital media in general, and I always try to explain to clients, advertisers, even traditional media houses, that digital media and the way it's gaining traction globally doesn't mean that it's gonna take over or it's gonna separate. And now really the separation line is very vague. It would replace what we call traditional media now. For me, the big breakthrough across media is when all media touch points become fully digital. It's how, the way retail media now offers that full attribution to every budget spent into a sale. The big breakthrough is when all media touch points will be able to become fully digital and offer that to advertisers. So it's a big dream. It's where I believe media is always heading. It's where I believe we still have a way to go. But yeah, media is changing. It's not disappearing, it's not being replaced. It's evolving into what we call a fully digitized platform, because at the end of the day, we now have the know-how, the tools, the capabilities to really offer marketeers in general that, big ooh-ha that we're all looking for is how to purely and truly attribute every dollar spent into an actual performance-based.
Very true, very true. And finally, with your vast experience in the advertising industry and in the region particularly, what advice would you give to young professionals or entrepreneurs looking to make a mark in the Middle Eastern advertising or e-commerce space?
Listen, for me, and the way I've always seen the market here, it's a beautiful market that's open to a lot of education. Clients, brands, retailers, advertisers, agencies, everyone is hungry for knowledge. So for me, education is something that, first of all, as a self-made marketeer, I've always adopted. An education, not educating yourself, not holding that knowledge, is sharing it, is really using the true knowledge that you gain by interacting and having the opportunity to interact with different advertisers, with a variety of people across the whole media sector. Is how can you really combine whatever you learn and whatever you experience every day and use that to better the overall media, retail media, whatever you want to call it, environment. So for me, this is a very important part of being, in a collective and being in the whole media sector. So education, in collaboration. I know that we all kind of work with competing products and competing brands and competing agencies and competing media houses. But at the end of the day, we all share a common goal, which is to grow a market where we can all do business in, we can all thrive, we can all contribute to the betterment of the market. So collaboration at a true sense of industry level is always needed, and it's always welcome, and it's something that I advise every marketeer in the market to adopt.
Tony, thank you again for joining us today for the Future of E-commerce catch-up. A real pleasure to meet you, and thank you. We hope to host you again soon.
I would love to, and thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.